Hey, what's going on, guys? This is going to be my out-of-box review for the real grade Sazabi, and I'll just start off the review by saying this is definitely one of the best, if not the best, real grade kits out to date. We'll get that out of the way right out of the box, and also probably one of the best just Gunpla kits in general ever made. It's definitely a very, very good kit, very solid, great accessories, just great look overall, with a few minor things that I would sort of maybe count as negative points, but I'll get into that later. In general, it really doesn't have any negative points that I could really point out, but there are just a couple things that I will mention later on in the review. Overall, 99.9% completely positive for this kit. Very, very great, fantastic kit. So before we get into it, also just want to say a big thank you as always to USA Gundam Store for sponsoring this review, guys. You definitely want to pick up one of these kits, and if you're living in the US, pick one up from USA Gundam Store, use my coupon code there and save 10% on that. You'll definitely not regret getting this kit. It's one that I would assume Bandai is going to have no problems selling loads of these, despite the little bit higher cost. This kit is selling for 4,500 yen for its list price. But like I said, despite that, I don't think they're going to have any trouble selling this kit at all. So it comes with pretty much everything you would expect for a Sazabi. If you've built the Master Grade Verka, it's very similar to that in that it has some armor sliding gimmicks built into it, a lot of really nice detail, and just the same weapons, the shield, the beam shotgun, and the beam tomahawk, and the effect parts for that. And then of course we have a slew of different hand option parts, standing pilot figure, and action base connector, and stickers and all that. So we'll take a look at all that stuff here in a moment, but first let's take a look at the kit itself. So first thing is that I did put a couple of the stickers on here, and they just don't really look that good, I don't think. That's just kind of how stickers go, but we do have a lot more where that came from, as well as like all these really shiny ones that go on like different bits on the inner frame and things like that. Also didn't really bother with those. I don't know if those would really help to make the inner frame also look better, but anything that's like clear on those stickers just doesn't really look good. So didn't really mess around too much with those, but do know that at least you have those. I assume that Bandai will probably put out a water slide set for this at some time. That said, I did throw the metallic green stickers on here for the head camera as well as for the mono eye inside there. Otherwise, those clear parts are all just plain clear, so you can paint those in whatever color you want, which is nice. So the head is going to have a chicken neck movement forward and back, but as far as like upward and downward movement, it's not really all that much. You can point it down for having a nice menacing look, of course. Up, not really all that much, because of course it's just got that huge helmet out the back. It does open up here because the Sazabi's pilot cockpit is actually in the head, so you slide that top part up and then bring the mask down. It's very slight, it's not super dramatic, but that does open up there. You can see the mono eye better there at this point, and there is like the actual like ball shape of the cockpit is all in there. If you wanted to display this like taken apart or something like that, you have all that nice detail inside of there. And that's another thing too, this kit is so nicely detailed. If you guys saw in the unboxing, and you'll see throughout the review too, as well as aside from just all the nice details on the outer surface, the inner frame of this kit is so fantastically detailed. If you want to display it with like some armor parts off or something, or even like any parts of the frame, I'll just pull off the front skirt, or pull up the front skirt here so you can see that. Just like that, you can see that detail up underneath the front skirt. It's just like, that's kind of detail that's just all around on this kit. Anywhere where there's frame parts that are going to possibly show, it's just fantastically detailed. But getting back to the articulation now, I know that the shoulders have been flagged as a very vulnerable point on this kit, so you do want to be careful with that. I didn't talk about that in the unboxing, but it is something that I was aware of whilst building the kit, so just be really careful. The shoulder joint will kind of swing out a bit, so you're able to get that out to get a further range of movement there in the shoulders. Works very much similar to a Master Grade kit. This whole shoulder armor itself will move up and down on its own. The front and back flaps will also move out on their own like that, which will make it easier for getting those out of the way for moving the arm around. This side bit also of course will move up and down like that. We have one of the heat dissipation gimmicks here in the shoulder as well. This bit here on the edge just slides out and that opens up a little bit there with some really nice detail in that. All in all, you're able to get the arm up pretty high, and I feel like I could probably swing that up even a little bit higher if I pulled this joint out farther away from the body, but again, I'm just trying to be a little bit careful with that shoulder joint, not to stress it too much. But then here in the arm, we have all the basic movement that you would expect. Rotation at the top, a nice double joint in the elbow, giving you a bend to there, and then the wrist is on a ball joint, but we have some really cool gimmicks built in here to the arm as well to help with the mobility of that. Now the first thing here is this bicep part. You open that up and then slide this a little bit down, and there's like 2 points where that can actually fit in 2 different slots. You fit it into the higher slot, and then you can get an even better bend there at the elbow, giving you a full like 180-degree elbow bend there. Great details all around on that, with this red piece inside of there, these pistons on the back of the arm. It's all fantastic. Down here above the hand, you'll notice there's our beam saber storage, but that is just like the top part, like the head of the beam saber. There's not an actual beam saber stored in the arm. We have our beam saber stored separately, so it's just kind of like a false thing that some people might care about that. Me, honestly, I really don't care. It's fine. The detail is there. The other gimmick built into the arm is to make it easier to hold the beam shotgun. Now, as it is, we have this large section of forearm like right near the hand, so it kind of gets in the way when you want to hold a gun. But what Bandai has done is you're able to actually pull that out. You pull off this armor panel on the back, pull this out a little bit. The inner part of the forearm will just slide out like that. Then you just pop this back on there like that, lock it back into place. And now your wrist base is basically like extended out a bit to give you a better range to hold the beam shotgun with more ease. And that is also a really, really cool gimmick that they've done with that. For our ab crunch, it's also pretty interesting. Now the main body will only move forward and back a little bit, so you can get a little bit of ab crunch there. But then what you can do is like the whole center part also moves down more like this. And then you're able to get the head much farther forward there to get a really nice crunch, like it's really leaning forward there. And that is really cool how it's just like the center part of the body moves like that. Is really unique and works really well. Going around here quickly to the backpack, again, just fantastic detail. I love even up underneath the funnel racks is so nicely detailed like that. Really cool. I love these little fin details underneath here, on the tops of the shoulders, on the underside of the torso here. You have these little ones that you want to be careful with. I can see mine already has a little stress mark on there, so do just be a little bit careful about these little fins poking out everywhere. But those are a really cool detail that they've incorporated with this. How you get the funnels to pop out, which those were a joy to build if you like repetitive stuff. I'm going to take this off the kit just so it's a little bit easier to show you. Now, I don't think this works quite as flawlessly as with the Master Grade Ka, but it is still pretty cool. You slide this little part here back, which is a little bit hard to do, but what they've done is like disguise that as detail there. That little like raised detail helps give you a little bit of more grip to pull this part back. It's a little bit tough. That raises this section here a tiny bit, and then you can fold the doors down to open those up. And I found if you fold those down too much or too hard, the whole thing will kind of just like break apart on you, so do be a little bit careful with that. Just fold it gently, and then you can pull your funnels out. And just, again, fantastic detail inside there for one. And then each of our funnels is made up of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts on there. And they essentially work the same as the Master Grade. You just fold out the side bits and then just push the barrel through, so the barrel will be poking out the front a little bit like that. And there you go, you have your funnel. And then here at the back, just 3mm hole there, so you can plug that onto just any action base adapter will work on that. Or if you have just some clear, like 3mm diameter clear rod or something, you can make your own effect parts for that. I assume that probably some effect part set will be coming out for this in the future, but in the meantime, these are really nice and you can do a lot with those. Then we also have our fuel tanks, which if you notice earlier on, those fell off quite early. I didn't have them pushed on all the way, unfortunately. But if those are pushed all the way in, they're nice and solid, and they will move around a little bit, but not too much. And we also have another really cool gimmick here in the backpack that you pull up this middle section. This thing opens up like that, and hopefully I can show you this in the light. It's all black, so it's going to be a little bit harder to see. But it like pulls up that main thruster bell there in the center of the backpack. So like the whole thing is like pointed further, like so it's like just pointed straight back. Very cool gimmick. Another thing too that I just love about this is all the bits of the gray inner frame that poke through the armor. So the armor's not just completely covering everything. You have little bits of gray poking out here and there and everywhere, and all these different bits here just helps to add to the detail and the overall look of it so much. I also enjoy that the piping going around the center section is just like all one piece. Some people might not though. You might want it to be like just like a Zaku or something where each of those pipe sections is a separate piece. That does look a little bit different. I don't want to say it looks nicer because it might not. It just depends on your point of view. But personally, I like that it's like this. You just pen align that and you get enough separation between those. I don't need it to be actually like 20 different separate parts for that. Now down to these skirts, there is like a gimmick where you're supposed to be able to pull this a little bit forward, and then it shows you in the manual that you can move something out to the side. I don't really get what it's trying to show, because this whole side bit's like the front skirt and the side skirt are kind of like on this part that's connected. You can kind of move that farther out to the side, but you can do that without pulling this part forward. You can just move that anyway, so I don't really know what that's pointing out in the manual. Maybe one of you guys can help me out with that. It doesn't really seem to be all that useful. But another thing though is that here on the underside, which again just really nice detail there with the yellow bits around that, this part in the center you can pull down here, and then you can swing the leg farther forward. The hips are on a track, so you can swing that forward for some more articulation in the hips there. This front skirt armor, if you kind of jimmy it down and then up like that, we'll be able to move plenty far up like that. I feel like that shouldn't be getting in the way of anything too much. The side skirt armor as well, out to about there, not too bad. And then there's another gimmick here, a sliding armor. You just pull down this side part, again similar to the Master Grade. There you go, mine's being a little bit sticky, but if you do it once or twice, that'll loosen it up a little bit, and it'll be ultimately like that with that armor just separated a bit there on the side skirt. Very cool. Before taking a look around to the back of the kit, we'll just take a look at the underside of the back skirt, which is also really nicely detailed with the two-tone red and the gray and all of that detail there. But then going around here to the back, this thing just looks so fantastic, and it just makes you think like the kits, we usually want the kits to look good from the front, and so we have the fronts all looking really good, but this kit looks so good even from the back too as well. Like you really want to have this thing almost like displayed on a spinning base just so you can look all around it. It's really great. But these bits on the side will just simply fold out a little bit like that, again revealing some more detail inside there and just helping to add to that open armor gimmick of this. And finally, getting down to the legs here, they're going to work pretty usually. They just have a rotation there at the top. You can bend the knee, that's what I want to say, and you get some really nice separation of the parts, the black part, the red part, and then all this detail in between with the gray for the frame. A really nice bend of the knee too, you get a pretty good bend there. This front section is able to pull out away from the leg a little bit, and you can move the angle of that. This side panel on the side of the legs also opens up, and we have just, of course, big thruster for that. And that just closes up so it's nice and flush, but we have the two-tone red there, and that just looks really nice. Otherwise, the lower leg armor is not as broken up as you would think. With the Master Grade Verkal, there's quite a few panels here on the leg that open up, but on this kit, it's basically just two big panels here for the lower leg, and then just only this side panel opens up, and the front one there too, of course. But it's not quite as complex here in the lower leg as with the Master Grade, but still pretty nice. Ankle articulation side to side is very good, you won't have any problems there. Up underneath the feet, fantastic detail there as well. We have a bend in the toe. This part at the back of the foot also bends, which both of those help for balancing the kit, because with so many moving parts, sometimes it's hard to get everything like lined up exactly right to get the balance right. So I've found so far just tweaking these parts a little bit just helps to get it to stand very easily. This whole front half of the foot though also moves independently like that. All in all, you can bring the foot all the way up into like the shin armor and then back. Even despite having these thruster bells in the back of the leg, you can bring the ankle back pretty far as well. And then of course point the toe down and have that all pointed down for plenty of movement there. And then just in case if you wanted one more moving part, this part here on the top of the foot does also move a little bit like that. So that was a very long articulation segment, I know, but there's just so much to go over with this kit. I didn't want to pass that up because there's so much great engineering and parts and gimmicks built into that. So we definitely had to look at that in plenty of detail. Now let's look at some of the accessories we get with this kit. First of all, we have an action base. It's very strangely shaped, but it looks like it should be very secure for this very large kit. We have our 1/44 scale figure of Char Aznable from Char's counterattack here. And aside from the closed fist, which I've got on the kit now, we have a bunch of different hand options. We have these open hands, which are very similar to like the open hands that we got with the Shinanju real grade kit, and then a lot of the HG the Origin Zaku kits, except it's a little bit different in its details. We've got open hands for the left and the right hand, that's nice. We've got holding hands for the left and the right hand, and these differ in the fact that these also have an added hinge in the wrist, so you're able to move those forward and back here at the wrist. It would have been nice if the open hands also had that gimmick, so that you could have the hand open and like pointing forward at the same time. And then our last hand option is a trigger finger hand only for the right side, so there's no trigger finger hand for the left. This one also though does have a hinged wrist. Now to hold in that hand we have our beam shotgun, and this thing is also fantastic. I love these little red details, and that's just all from the one red part there for the piping at the top, but they used that to also make these little tiny red details popping out along the side of the gun, and that just looks really, really cool. You also of course have the gray details for the ammo clip and this pump action here, and then the handle, of course the handle will move forward and back as well for making that easy to hold. Overall really solid. Taking a weapon that I usually find a little bit boring in other versions of this kit, this one is really, really nice. And then of course we have the Sazabi's shield, and I did put a couple stickers on here as well just so you guys can see how the big gold stickers look. Again, not too bad, but just on black, anything at the time one of those sticker decals is on a dark colored plastic, it's just not going to look that great. This one, not as bad as the white ones do, I think, just because gold, it's very bright. But I really love the redesign of the shield, just making it just a little bit more angular, and you have these like deep cut out sections here on the side for like the vents in the shield. On the back we have the 3 little missiles there. You can remove those if you want. While there is a lot of really nice detail in here, I wish that there was maybe another gray piece for the back of the shield, just so that it looks like it's just like a more mechanical piece rather than just the back side of a red piece of plastic, if you know what I mean. Then we have our 2 beam saber handles. Now some people might complain that these aren't actually stored in the forum, but I would much prefer the articulation gimmick that they made in the forum of how the forearm slides out to better hold the weapon. I think that's much more useful than actually having these stored in the forum. I don't really care too much about that. We have these though, so when you want to handhold those are just right there. And then we have our beam tomahawk, pretty simple, made up of just a few parts here. Now it shows that you're meant to be able to plug this onto the back of the shield, though I've found it's a little bit weird. It doesn't really fit super well. Like, it's plugged in there and it's fitting fine, but it feels like this front part should be like a little bit further closer like that, like it's not quite straight in line with the shield, and that's a very small thing, but it's bugging me a little bit just because of the shape of the shield. It's keeping the axe from being completely flush with the shield, which is just maybe a little OCD or something there, but that does bother me a little bit. And last thing is we have our beam saber effect parts, which are in a very, very bright neon green color, and they're really nice. So we have these here for the beam saber handles. Those just fit in there like so. Really nice jagged design. Again, these are the same as the ones that came with the real grade Shinanju. If you have that kit, these are exactly the same shape as those. You can also plug one in here into the center of the beam tomahawk like so. But then we have these awesome beam effect parts here for the sides of the beam tomahawk. Now these just fit onto there, and ultimately it's going to be looking like that. Pretty awesome, or without the centerpiece, just looking like that. Now these are crossed off in the manual, and you're not actually meant to use these with this kit, but you obviously can. These are the longer type beam saber effect parts used by the Shinanju. The Sazabi isn't really meant to use these, but you do have them included, so you know, why not count them as an accessory as well. If you have those in place along with the centerpiece, it makes for a pretty impressive beam weapon there for sure. And for a quick size comparison, here it is compared with another 1/44 scale kit, the HG Revive RX-782 Gundam. Yes, these are both actually in the same scale, but as you can see, the Sazabi is a very, very large kit. It's basically the size of a small master grade. Alright, so man, with this kit being pretty heavy, it's a little bit tricky to get it balanced up on an action base, but it can be done, and it looks amazing. Wow, I thought this kit looked good before, but like even posed up, once you get everything all lined up and everything, this kit looks fantastic. One thing that I've never really liked about the Sazabi is that the shield is always pretty much stuck on the back of the arm, and even if you get onto the side of the arm, the huge shield clashes with the huge shoulder armor, so it's a little bit annoying. I usually always prefer the shield on the side of the arm. I just think it looks so much better for posing. In the Sazabi's case, it's just kind of hard to do that, so I'm just trying to do my best here. Also trying to display here the fact of how solid this kit is, holding up the shield straight out like that with the beam effect parts on there, and that doesn't feel like it's gonna sag anytime soon. It feels completely solid, not gonna be any way issues with this kit at all. That's fantastic. And this is something that we saw in the real grade Unicorn, and it's definitely carried into this one as well, is that Bandai is taking a lot more time to consider the solidarity of the real grade kits, because the real grade line is known to be pretty finicky and stuff just not really holding together really well, just being kind of weak and just kind of janky. But with this, and like with the real grade Unicorn, we've got some really super solid kits that are just like a rock. So here it is with all of the open armor gimmicks opened up, as well as the funnel racks and the cockpit, and this thing is just impressive. No matter what you do with it, no matter how you slice it, it just poses so perfectly and amazing. Just to think that it's such a huge, bulky, massive mobile suit design can pose so well. That's definitely one advantage that this has over the Master Grade, but I'll talk about the comparison between those two just at the end of this review. What I did want to briefly touch on is what I mentioned at the beginning of the review, how there are a couple little minor negatives that I'll just point out, and for most of the people, probably 95%, if not more, of you guys will not care at all about this stuff, but I just want to mention it, at least for anyone who's watching this review who is like brand new to Gunpla, or you're just like not really familiar with what this is in general. This being a real grade kit, of course, like all real grades, it does have some really small pieces, which might not be for everyone. With this kit being quite large for what it is, it does still have some of the really tiny pieces that you get with real grades. That said, not really as many as other ones. There's a few really small pieces in the head, but other than that, there's not really as many really tiny pieces with this one compared to other real grades, so that's good. The other thing is that this kit doesn't come with any water slides. That's a complaint that I'll make for this kit, just because that's wishful thinking. I wish that it did, and I really wish that Bandai would do that more. But if you guys know Bandai, and if you know the real grade line, you know that never is the case, so it's not really surprising at all. But if I had to point out anything where I think this kit could have possibly been better than what it is, It's just that if it would have come with water slides. Other than that, there's not really any way that I think they really could have improved this at all. Now real quick before we wrap up the review, a lot of people are talking about the shoulder issue with this kit, which I believe is this part here. This is the section where it's built into the torso, where the arms are plugged into. And when you're plugging these parts in here together, this can be a little bit fragile, this lower part of that plugs down into there. So you want to just make sure when you plug these parts together, push the parts on very straight. Just make sure you're looking at the parts from the side so you can tell that when you're pushing them together, they're perfectly straight together, and you push it all the way through and everything is lined up perfectly. Just do that, and I was really careful to do that really carefully, and it's totally fine. You won't mess up anything, so the shoulder issue is not an issue. Just make sure that you do this part carefully. But with that, guys, that's going to be it for the review. This kit is amazing, highly recommended. I did just want to briefly talk about the comparison between this and the Master Grade Verka, because there's a lot of similarities in just the way that they're constructed and the gimmicks and everything. But pros and cons. This one is cheaper. The Master Grade Verka is definitely more expensive. This one's smaller if you're worried about shelf space. This one definitely does posing a lot better. The Master Grade Verka is very large, very heavy, and so it's hard to get it into really dynamic poses. That said, I think the Master Grade Verka, being as big and as detailed and just cool as it is, makes for a better big display piece, among your display of kits. This one is probably a better overall well-rounded kit, and just that you can do everything with it. But the Master Grade Verka, I think, still just makes for a more impressive looking kit, just standing there on the shelf with all the armor opening gimmicks on that. Plus the fact that that kit does come with water slide decals. But that's it, guys. I think I've covered just about everything. There's a lot to cover with this kit, so I know it's been a really long review. Thank you so much for your patience and sticking through to the end. There's even probably little bits that I missed, and you guys will let me know down there in the comment section below. There's a lot of little gimmicks and things built into this kit, so it's very likely that I may have missed one or two things. But I tried to cover as much as I could here for you guys, just to give you as much information as possible. And I hope it's been helpful. So again, thank you to USA Gundam Store. Check the link to their site there down below, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye-bye. Hey! Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you want to check the kit out for yourself, you can head over to USA Gundam Store. Use that coupon code ZakuAurelius10. Save yourself 10%. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.